Hello, welcome to a new episode of Reigns with Danny Shi. Today's September 1st. Happy Labor Day holiday for those in the United States. I'm recording in New Jersey as usual, and we have about 25 to 25 games left in the CPBL season, halfway through the second half of the CPBL season as well, giving you guys updates on each team, and I'm also wanting to talk about the Wei-Chuan Dragons because I talked about this in a tweet this morning, September 1st, but starting to really question where this team is and where they've been this whole time. And whether that is a curve that we can look at for the TSG Hawks down the line, because again, I always say don't compare those two teams, but looking at their curves in the first two seasons in the CPBL, it's eerily similar. But the structure of their roster and the way they are achieving this is a little bit different, but the results are eerily similar. Starting with the first place team in both right now both the second half and the full year standing is the CTBC brothers. Not a lot of notes from me, other than it is almost expected. If you go back and listen to the episode that John Foster and I did together to preview each team. First of all, John Foster, very optimistic and very high expectations of each team. But I think we can all agree that the way that both of us talked about the CTBC brothers and how they're the best team and the most talented, the most all-around team, and with the most resources, the most ownership buy-in, the best ownership buy-in. The CTBC brothers were expected to not only make it to the Taiwan series, but it would probably be a real disappointment if they don't win it and complete their. Well, they didn't win in 2023, but 2024 they won, and it would be a pretty. It will be a continuance of their dominance in the CPBL going back to 2021. They won two in a row, 2021, 2022. Kind of threw the stones on their own foot a little bit in 2023, but 2024 they went back and won, and they're on right now, about to go in and win their fourth in the last 5 years. And the last time we saw that was the Lamigo Monkeys between 2016 to 2019, and that was a historic run. And right now, even I can argue that that particular talent pool that the monkeys are the monkeys were able to have at that point, they're still using the same talent pool today, and they're still in playoff hunts, and we're 6 years past that and they're still in the playoff hunt, and that tells you how good the monkeys are back in the day. And now we're seeing the same thing with the CTBC brothers. Again, not a lot of notes from me, besides they're very impressive. I caught a couple of innings on Thursday against the monkeys, and the way that they play baseball, the way that they move players, the way that they put themselves in the best position to score, to move runners, to I think all in all was a very impressive game on Thursday. Now, obviously, there are games here and there that they probably don't do as well, and things like that. But it's a long season, right? Things like that happen all the time. You're looking at a team with a 59% winning percentage in the full year standings, a full 3.5 games cleared of second place, and this is a 23-13 record in the second half. This is for the second half only. That's a 639 winning percentage. It is their depth is showing. I think you're looking at you're at this point in the season when some of your second army talent has to be able to come up and support the first army team, and you're talking about having a deep pool of players to continue a very high level of performance. I think the brothers are able to are able to show that, comparing to the Union Lions that we've talked about having depth issues in the past. Although having improved on improving on that since I first started talking about the CPBL on this podcast a few years ago. But now you're looking at the Lions tailing off in the second half, year after year after year. The Monkeys no longer having that depth in their roster. Just looking at their second army performance in the last few years, especially ranking last in second army standings in the last 2 years. That is with the Hawks, with the Dragons, with our both expansion teams in the last 5 years. The Monkeys no longer have that roster depth that we touted in the beginning of the 2020s and the late 2010s. The Guardians talked about them for a long time. Talked about how they could be better. I'm just gonna leave it at that for now. But the Guardians obviously not the same level of roster depth than the Brothers, and the Wei-Chuan Dragons, the TSG Hawks, not to their fault just yet. The Dragons is just their fifth season in the CPBL. The Hawks just their second. You can't expect either of these teams to have a full roster depth as the Brothers have when considering they're an OG team and having the resources that they have. So the Brothers, all in all, have the best roster depth by far, best resources, best facilities, and it's showing. And right now, to be honest with you, I don't know if I see an end to their dominance right now, because you look at the 2019 Monkeys and you're looking at, okay, it's all hitting at the time. John Foster talked about that, all hitting at the time, and once that core is starting to age a little bit, and some of the players left the team, like Chen Junxiu in 2022, and now Zhu Yuxian in this past offseason, you can see that the dominance crippling away, and then in 2020, 2021, that's when, in my opinion, 2023 when 2022 when they got swept by the Brothers, 2023 when they lost to the Dragons, those were like at the tail end of their dynasty, and in 2022, my apologies, let's go back to the 2010s. To me, Wang Yizheng's dominance as a domestic pitcher at the time was a huge help for the Monkeys in terms of having that edge. Even if everybody has the same level of foreign pitching, having probably at the time one of the best domestic starter was helped them over the edge in terms of pitching, which at the time was very hard to come by. Good pitching, and then you have the incredible lineups with back-to-back cleanup hitters. And in a league where hitting is king, they really leaned on that particular part of the league at that point in time. And then now they've lost some of the key players. Wang Yizheng is no longer the same as he used to be at the time, and now obviously he's retired. You see the key pillars of their dominance start to cripple, and now they change the ball, so the hitting is no longer as dominant as before. Etc., etc. And then their head scout, most importantly, in my opinion, their talent evaluation personnel left the team. A lot of their management left the team. The key pillars of their dominance start crippling away. I'm looking at the CTBC Brothers, the way that they're managing their team right now. Talent evaluation, talent development. Although, again, the Brothers being the Yankees of the CPBL, they will have a lot of fans, they will have a lot of noises talking about different players getting unfair treatment about getting playing time, etc. We can have all these discussions, but at the end of the day, they have it looks like from the outside a very scientific way of looking at talent evaluation, talent development, more scientific, it seems like, than some of the other teams, especially. And I don't see, besides a really weird self-sabotage where you're kind of picking yourself apart. I don't see I don't see them losing their dominance, because it's not like they haven't lost players before. They lost Chen Zihao in the past offseason, one of the key players, and it looked like they didn't miss a beat. They did add Chen Jun, so like they're not one. It's not one of those situations where even if they lose a couple of key players, I feel like the system they built in place is able to help sustain it for a longer period of time. When the Rakuten core took over, and then in 2021, 2022, 2023, each offseason you're hearing about cutting costs and some of their talent evaluation personnel leaving the team, and you know and their key players leaving the team. That's are different things, multiple things happening that's slowly crippling away their dominance. I'm looking at the brothers. I don't see them cutting costs anytime soon. That's just not the way it looked like they're going to be running. And as long as they keep this system in place and they continue bringing in new blood, hiring from overseas, hiring from domestically, I think they have a good system set up where they will be sitting at the throne for a long period of time. Um, Honestly, I look at 2023, the 1 year they didn't win the championship in the last five. They fired their manager middle of the season for no reason. Like that I think was a big. That's one of the things where I think they can be self sabotaged. But outside of that, um, they're just good. Last time I came up, I think a month ago, last episode I said the brothers don't seem scary. Well, they're scary now. I'm pretty sure I heard they probably Daniel Catalan or their coaches or something. Somebody must have given them my material and go like, oh, you're not scary, and then look how scary they are right now. 64% winning percentage in the second half. I am taking credit for it. It's not the players, it's not the management, it's me. It's all because of me that they listened to when they said, oh yeah, we're gonna prove Daniel wrong, and I'm pretty sure that's why they've been putting up a show in the second half. And honestly, right now they'll be sitting at home waiting for the results of the playoff series, and they will be hosting the Taiwan series. And again, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see. I don't not. I think they're definitely favorites to win in Taiwan series. In the short term, obviously there can be random stuff like injuries or things, or just random stuff that happens in a short term series that can probably let the other team take a couple games, maybe sneak a championship like at the 2020 season. I'm talking about that Taiwan series again, but overall, you got to look at this team and thinking they're the best team. They're the best team in the CPBL. They're the best team in Taiwan. They built a tremendous system, and nobody's going to challenge them, in my opinion. And don't forget, before 2021, we talked about that curse, right? The Taiwan series curse. But that in itself is very impressive. 2015, they finished runner-up. 2016, they finished runner-up. 2017, they didn't make the series. 2018, 2017, they lost. 2018 they didn't make the Taiwan series. 2019, 2020. So since 2015, they've been in the Taiwan series all but two. So they finished in the top two every single year but 2 years. In 8 of the last 10 years, they finished either first or second place in the CPBL. Very impressive. And they're gonna continue their ways. Right now, they're at a position where I think it looks like they're working very hard to turn their team into a profitable business, and that takes a winning team, very strong marketing, and right now they're owning their own broadcasting team as well, and they have one of the most professional and one of the best run broadcasting team in Taiwan as well. All of that coming together. And obviously they have basketball going on. They have a basketball team too. Right now, it looks like they're humming, they're puffing. Is that the word? Puffing and humming. And nothing. No, I said no notes, but I still talked about them for like 14 minutes. But moving on to right now. Let me. Who do I want to talk about next? I have a lot about the Dragons I want to talk about, the Lions a little bit too, but let's go to okay. Let's finish. Let's take on the Monkeys for a little bit, because I really don't have a ton of notes to talk about for the Monkeys. They're pretty much what I expected them to be. Again, in the preseason, I talked about the Monkeys being they're gonna be that team where they're gonna compete for the championship. They're gonna compete for the playoffs. They might sneak into the playoff, and that's enough to tell your bosses and your management, hey, we gave ourselves a shot at winning the championship. I think it looks like from the management, not the like the coach's management, and not like the head coach. Like I know in baseball, you obviously call it the manager, but I'm talking about the the organization point of view. It looks like that's their goal. As long as they can report, they can write a report saying they're in the playoff. They're happy with that, and it shows with the way that they run the organization, not the players. I have 100% sympathy with the players. I think they're being put in in a terrible position, and they're giving lackluster resources. They're given. I mean, you're talking about reports saying that they have when they during spring training they have to borrow pitching machines from local high schools in the area so they can practice with pitching. Like these are the reports that are coming out. And these are the situations that the players and the coaches are being put in. You can't blame the coaches. You can't blame the players. Reports coming about how they're catering food from outside, which you're thinking, okay, that's fine, but they're catering food that has no protein in it, like very little protein. It's and there are news about how it's just disgusting food being given, and the captain Ling Li actually came out, and when he talked to the media, and I cannot shake myself from reading this, which is he said, um, it's not so bad that we're not in the situation we're not so bad. Now I think different from before that we now get to choose what we want to eat, since now we mostly eat takeout, and we can decide where we want to go to buy our lunches or like pre-game or post-game meals. Can you imagine a professional athlete saying that? Like I mean, like it's baseball's one of those sports where you play so many games that your team up as a professional team, you should be on shouldn't you be responsible for your team's own food or meals. Even let's say you're catering stuff, right? That's fine, but like you're putting your players in a situation where they feel like they're not being like whatever the team's prepared for you is unhealthy to a point, unhealthy and unhelpful to a point where they're like, oh, well, it's okay. I think right now it's probably a little different. You just got to look on the bright side. We get to choose where we want to go eat afterwards. This is not like Tuesday evening volleyball that I mean. This is not like Sunday morning beer league, and then after the thing, you get to choose which diner you want to go to, or I'm gonna go get it. No, these are professional athletes that you invested millions of dollars into, and you're putting them. Even if you like, I think to me, it's already like as a fan, it's already on a disrespectful side to view your players as assets, which I understand sometimes you got to be when you're from the point of organization. But even from the point of even if you're viewing your players as assets and not human beings, don't you want to put your assets in the best situation for them to perform? Like, what are we doing here? And the worst part I think for me is from the organizational point of view, if you're an organization that doesn't give a crap about your team, you look at the resources they're giving, like the lack of resources that you're giving your team, and they're still above 500. They're still in the hunt for the playoff. They're probably gonna finish the season. Let's say they finish the season play, in a playoff series like they have in the past, and they can go up there and write a report saying they're top, they're in the top echelon of the CPBL, which in according to the standings they are. For the third year in a row, they're in a position to go win a championship when the season is over, which on paper they are. You know, if you're an organization again that doesn't really care, are you going to put more in there, more resource in there? I don't know, because to me, like, oh, I'm giving it's this, it's like a very like corporate way of looking at things, right? And it looks like they're just being corporately run, and not even, like corporately run can be good and bad. I think, obviously different companies are different. Are there are good things about being run in a corporate way, like the brothers are actually. If you compare the brothers after they got bought by China Trust, versus before when they were just owned by a hotel. Now they're being owned by a multinational, international company, and they bring in a scientific system to build around and talent evaluation, development, everything, all the good things I was talking about. It can be good, but the dark side of it can be also very bad. Just a toxic environment, and the monkeys are being put in a terribly toxic environment, and they're still above 500. Now, again, I mentioned this about 10 minutes ago. This is probably, in my opinion, based on, like, they're still, it's the dividends that the Lamigo era had invested in the 20 teens that they're still getting paid on. They're still getting paid by that investment. And the lack thereof investment in the past 5 years, let's just say the last 3 years, because I do think that between 2020 and 2022, they still kept a lot of the Lamigo management, and they were still doing some of the things in a similar way, but we're seeing a huge change in that in the last 2-3 years, between 2023 and 2025. The lack of resources given and invested in the last 3 years are going to come back and haunt them. And as a Monkeys fan, that is very disheartening. You're seeing that decline, and you're seeing it. And right now, it's hard to come up with an argument for them to stop doing it outside of, we love this team and we don't want to see that happening. Like, if this, you're looking at an organization that doesn't really care, and I don't know what's a good way to convince them to care. They're winning, they're giving good image, or they're not really. There's a bunch of stuff happening off the field that I think that's actually hurting their corporate image. But at the end of the day, the Monkeys, this baseball team, is probably the only asset that for the Rakuten core that can for them to establish some sort of corporate image or goodwill. It's one of the only assets and a really good asset, actually, because you look at how Taiwan baseball has been growing in the last 3 years. It's like one of the only few assets that the Monkeys have in Taiwan that is like establishing like their corporate presence. I don't think, from a corporate view, I don't think they're selling their team anytime soon. They just don't give a crap. It's just like it's like a, it's just a bike that runs, and you're like, all right, you're probably gonna let your cousin or your little sister or your daughter or your son's daughter try to use it. It's an old bike that you're probably gonna let your somebody to run it. Probably not in the best way. Actually, it's probably, let's say, like, it's like an old rundown car I think they view it as like an old car that they bought from somebody, and they have their own shiny cars already. But you just kind of you have like this is like sitting in the garage and just like letting somebody like just lend it to somebody to use it to for a grocery run or something like that, and it's still very useful. You don't because you don't want people, you don't want to give away that asset, um, but but you don't really care of it. I think that's what I think that's how Raccoon looks at the monkeys. Very disappointing as a Monkeys fan to be witnessing this decline, and feeling really bad for each of the players. And Huang Zipon's going to hit the free agent market at the end of the season. You look, and Lin Li also going to be entering the free agent market at the end of the season. You look at how Zhu Yuxian last year didn't even think about going back to the Monkeys and chose the Wei-Chuan Dragons. That tells you a lot about and Chen Juxiu as well in 2023, Zhu Yuxian in 2024. All of these marquee players just left the team. Didn't even think about it. Now they did keep Li Hongyu, which is quite for me it was quite surprising. But again, hard to witness. Hard to witness that decline. Again, I said I don't have much notes to talk about, but I talked about them for 10 minutes. The Uni Lions. I think it just came down to pitching. Right now, they're 18-19 in the second half. Their pitching ERA as a team is 4.01. Not good. They're hitting 253 as a team. Not good. And their OPS if I do my math quickly, 677 team OPS. So overall, they're not good everywhere, but I think pitching is the one that worries me, because you look at the top half. In the first half of the season, the Lions had a team ERA of 3.23, and that's good enough to be second best in the CPBL. They hit 267. They had a 731 OPS. So in all of the facets, they had declined. But to me, the pitching really. You jumped from 3.23 to 4.01 in pitching. And the pitching is historically has been the Lions' stronger suit. They gave Chen Jiexin a couple of days off, which is fine to me. I think, he's been playing so much baseball in the last 16 months. It's actually crazy. But clearly, I think it has been proven time and time again they just don't have the depth that the brothers had, and again that's hard to replicate, especially when to my knowledge, still only has one baseball field to work with between your first and second army, and they've actually they haven't been able to use Tainan Municipal Stadium because it's under renovation from the typhoon damage, but they're drifting further and further away from the first half from the full year championship, so they're gonna have to play a playoff series. They're already shorthanded in terms of comparing your roster depth to like the brothers, and so no notes here. I feel bad because it's also really really hard to play on the road all the time. I get it, it's hard, but it's a pattern, right? It's been a pattern for many years. If it was like outlier thing where this year is like the only year the second half is kind of a struggle, and then you can point at the fact that they don't have Tainan as a differentiator, but that's just not how that's not what it looks like anymore. I don't know how to fix it. It's just it's like everybody has an identity now. The Guardians have their own identity, being a terrific spoiler of other teams at the end of each half season. The Monkeys are the forever 500 team. The brothers are the best team in the league, and then you have the Lions. It's just going to be terrific in the first half, and then tail off in the second half. I don't know. They're as I think as an organization and as a as an entire system, they're still behind the brothers, which is nothing to be ashamed about. I think the brothers have put together a terrific system and terrific organization. Um, I think the Lions are much better run right now than they were in the late 20 teens and the late 20 teens. Um, but there's still a gap there. Now, whether the right now is the ceiling as an organization, because to me it looks like from the outside they don't have as much ownership buy-in as they had as the brothers have, the Wei-Chuan Dragons have. They have it's a much better ownership buy-in than the Monkeys, but that's not saying a lot. But the Lions right now, I think there's a ceiling as to how good their organization can be because of the lack of organizational buy-in from the unit president or corporation. Um, they've been a lot better in the last few years because of um, the the law that was passed by Commissioner Ted Zhang, where the money that you invest in sports and sports slash entertainment slash sports athletics and entertainment can be used to can give you a tax deduction. Since then, you can tell the Lions have gotten better, probably through more investment from their mother company. And then you have the money that you had that you took last year with the sale of Gu Lingrui to the Nippon Ham fighters in Japan. That you're seeing more resources being brought into the Lions organization, but I think there's a cap there, and it's not at the level that the brothers are getting from from the China Trust organization. Um, and so I think they run very well with the stuff that they're given. Is this the ceiling though? Is a very competitive, very like probably top two, minimum top three team in the CPBL. The ceiling of this organization is something that I actually question. Um, they're 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 run very well. They have good teams. They have good players. But in order to have the depth like the brothers do, you need to put serious stuff in there, serious investment, and I think the Lions are trying. The people in the Lions organization is trying very hard. Um, they're in a better position than the Monkeys. They're in a better position than the Guardians, but the Guardians is a whole different thing, a whole different animal in terms of how it's run. But actually, let me phrase it this way. Speaking of the Guardians, um, they run terrifically when you compare them to how baseball's being run at Fubon. Um, and that's very that can be it. I don't know how much that actually means. Fubon has terrific organizational investment in buy-in. It's just they don't know. I don't think they know how to run a baseball operation. Everything else at Fubon, I've said for many, many years, going back to 2021, 2022, going back to 2020, I've been saying this. Fubon has done terrific stuff, terrific investment, terrific improvements anywhere but the baseball operations, which for the life of me I can't figure out why they struggle so hard to figure out how to run a baseball operations. And I am never going to be good enough to sit here and tell you how to run a baseball team, how to talent evaluate, how to build a baseball operating system, operations system that can, I will never be able. I don't think I will, because I'm the most highest level of baseball I've played is like this very low, terrible high school baseball team, but it's clear from the results that the Guardians just don't know how to do a baseball operations thing. Everything else, marketing, stadium development, cheerleading, all those good stuff, they're top notch. The Lions are kind of the opposite, in my opinion. They trail in a lot of aspects outside of the baseball operations, but their baseball operations are solid. The coaches and management putting real effort into running a really well run baseball operations a baseball operation, and is this the ceiling as an organization before we see real investment, like further investment power from the mother company? I think it's a real question to be have, to be had, to be had. Yeah, that's the real. That's I think that's the grammatically correct way. TSG Hawks, very impressive. Um, Real ownership buy-in, real management, um, real marketing. The um, so far real baseball operations. Even though I still need more data points, we're like a year and a half into their first army um, history, but still incredibly impressive. 48, 45, and 2 in the 4 year standings. Third right now. They If the season ended today, they would make the playoff. They're second in the second half standings. Think about that. TSG Hawks are the only team. Well, they're kind of, but they're the closest team to the brothers in the second half. They have a 54.5 winning percent win rate. 54.5% win rate. Yeah, yeah. 3.5 games back from the brothers. And in, Braden Hagens, moving him to a starter, and has been a tremendous move. I had my doubts, but tremendous move when they moved him to a starter. Broke the longest winning streak in CPBL a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. He hadn't lost a game in like a year and a half. Undoubtedly the ace of the TSG Hawks right now, and if the playoffs started today, he will be game one starter. Steven Moya still producing at a very high level. Onion Team producing at a terrific level. And a very scrappy team with a lot of with you'll with a lot of late game, either putting the other team in uncomfortable situations, or actually making a comeback. I still worry about their bullpen. They're still relying on a handful of arms in the bullpen that we're coming into the stretch of the season. How are they going to hold up? Going into next year, how are these players going to hold up? That's just kind of the way that Hongjong works his bullpen arms. He's gonna just pick a few guys I really trust and just work them until he finds the next diamond in the rough. But the key question is, next year, when you lose that, or you no longer have that extra foreign player slot, because right now the Hawks in their second year in the CPBL, in this first army, they get an extra foreign position player slot in than the other teams, and that's where they're using Steven Moya. Next year, are they going to keep Moya, or are they going to risk it and have one less foreign pitcher than other teams? That's going to be a real question that needs to be answered. The Guardians tried to use one of the slots as a relief pitcher in Anderson Franco, and after a year and a half of the experiment, they've officially said no to that. Now Steven Moya, all the respect to Anderson Franco, I think he's a terrific pitcher. Loves Taiwan. I think Taiwan loves him. Same in a similar way that Steven Moya loves Taiwan, and Taiwan loves him. Steven Moya is undoubtedly more important to the Hawks than Anderson Franco ever was for the Guardians. And you're going to lose a lot of production if you don't keep Moya next year. And then you look at the Wei-Chuan Dragons curve. First year, competitive, but, tailed off at the end. Second year, playoff series. Third year, championship. I don't think the Hawks are going to win the championship next year, but right now their curve is following what the Wei-Chuan Dragons curve in terms of second year. They have a really good shot of making the playoff. And next year, the reason why I said in the beginning of the episode I don't think the Hawks are um, gonna replicate the same curve as the Dragons, because the Dragons never had one foreign position player that was as important to the lineup as the Hawks have with Steven Moya. Um, so yeah, they had Russell Hassel in the first year, and then Marcus Goodwin in the second year. Neither of them were as important as Steve Moya has been for the Hawks. So they went back to their three starting pitchers at the time: Gagno, Briam, and Woodall. But they had a really, really strong foreign pitcher. Um, they had really, really strong foreign pitchers that helped them, guided them into the 2023 World Taiwan Series Championship. The Hawks going to have that? I'm not sure. I just don't know. But I've been doubting them since before they started the league, and they've been continuously proving me wrong. So hopefully they do prove me wrong, because I think they're a very, very fun team to root for, and yeah, the key right now for the Hawks is obviously, I think right now they would need to focus on the third place battle with the Monkeys. Their Monkeys right now are 1 game behind. They just played a 3-game series. The Monkeys took 2. The Monkeys really needed to sweep the Hawks, but they won 2 out of 3, which is keeping them in that hunt right now. The Hawks and the Monkeys are 9-9, 9-1 in between their head-to-head. So it's going to be interesting coming down the stretch. 9-1, that is how many? 19 games in a full year, and how many they play each other? 120. Oh, my math is blanking right now. They play 120 games. They play 5 people, so it's 20 games. So 9-1, that's 19 games. They only have 1 game left in their head-to-head. Am I doing the math right? They play 120 games. They play 5 opponents, so it's 20 games each. Yeah. And then they've played 19 times already. 19, 20. Huh. I'm sure, I feel like I'm doing my math wrong somewhere, because I'm looking at the Monkeys. They played the Brothers 19 times. They played the Lions 19 times. They played the Hawks 19 times. They played the Dragons 20 times. And they played the... No, hold on. I'm so dumb. 120. 5. 24 games. They played each other 24 games. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not an engineer. This is why my mother and my dad was always disappointed in me when I did my math homework. They played each other 24 times. The Hawks and the Monkeys have only played each other 19 times, so they have 5 head-to-head games left, and those are going to be important. The 1 game, I just embarrassed myself in front of the world, in front of the global audience. My math has embarrassed itself, and myself too. Wei-Chuan Dragons. I am kind of in between about them right now. Prior to the season, I thought them, Lions, and the Brothers are clear-cut the top echelon of the CPBL on paper. And right now, they're 5th place. They're 10.5 games behind the Brothers. They're 3 games under 500. They are 3 games behind the Hawks. They're 3 games also behind the last playoff spot. And they're 5.5 games back of the Brothers in the second half. They only have 24 games left. And if they want to win the second half, they have to catch 5.5 games to the Brothers. They still have a pretty good shot at the final playoff series, but they're still on their back foot right now, looking at the Monkeys and looking at the Hawks. they're 7 games behind the Lions, which again I thought the Lions brothers and the Dragons are the top three, and right now they're just they're closer to the. Actually, that's not true. They're no longer by standing. They're closer to the Guardians, but if you look at games back, they're not actually. Um, but to me, it's still disappointing. Very disappointing to see. In the full year, their team ERA is still the best in the league. In the second half, their ERA is still the best in the league. Their hitting is, in theory, batting average wise, third place in the league. But their OPS is only 689 as a team. 689 as a team in OPS. I don't understand. On paper, talent is there. The core has won a championship 2 years ago. After 2 years of development and adding 2 marquee free agents and having an extra foreign player because you have Brian Woodall as a domestic player, you're 5.5 games back in the second half. Something is really wrong, and I haven't figured it out what it is, and I'm in the car today. I'm trying to think: is it because of lack of depth that they don't have enough depth yet, and they're still relying on the same player? Like they're not doing as much transaction between the first and second army. They're not they're not like if the brothers can trust 40 to 50 players or 30 to 40 players. Look like the Dragons right now are trusting like 20 players, 20 to 25 players right now, which is explainable because they are a relatively new team, and it takes a long time for them to acquire and develop enough talent like to have what the brothers have right now. It's going to take time. I think from the outside, it looked like they built a pretty good system. John Foster said they have one of the best facilities in Dolio, which I don't doubt it. The national team uses that facility over and over again. They have it's not like they don't believe in sports science. They're well known for being more analytics driven than other teams. So that's not an excuse. Like, oh, they're not believing in modern baseball. No, they're probably one of the leading teams in using that style of evaluation and training. So I don't know what it is. They have the talent. The talent ceiling is super high. I read, reading from like the Taiwanese Reddit, people are like, I've seen people saying that they're not giving enough, they're not using enough second army players, and so they're not the first army players doesn't have enough urgency to play well because they're never going to be sent down, which I haven't watched enough of Dragons games to verify that standpoint, that opinion, but that could be it. And that could stem from the fact that I mentioned earlier. Do they not have enough confidence in their overall depth as an organization because this is only their 5th year in the CPBL? Counting actually 6th year, but yeah, for 5th year in the first army, and they haven't been able to build that pyramid, like a pyramid of talent, like the brothers have had, like the Lions has, like the Monkeys had during their heyday. So, because on paper everything is working, everything is at a good place. Ownership has really good buy-in. You have one cook in the kitchen that is, you don't have too many cooks in the kitchen. You have one person in Ye Junzhang doing, um, implementing his own style, which again, that may be it, but do you really want? I mean, obviously, when you are the head of the organization, when you have all the power, all the all the accolades comes with all of the criticisms and the negative aspect of it. So that but to me, yeah, you can blame him for lackluster performances, but what are you gonna do? Like, I don't see them firing him. Even if you do, I don't think there's anybody out there that can build the same thing, that's as capable of building or rebuilding a similar structure to put in place. So yes, the, maybe he deserves some of the criticisms, but who are you gonna hire? It's like when talk about, oh, I want Aaron Boone fired, then the next question is, oh, who do you want to hire? Well, I know this is gonna be unpopular for Yankee fans, but like Alex Cora is pretty good. But anyway, for the Dragons, really, like who are you going to take over? Look at the Guardians, where they are right now. Like, good people, good baseball people in Taiwan don't just grow on trees. You know, look at the Guardians, look at the Monkeys right now. So I don't know. On paper, they have very good head of baseball operations. They have very good ownership buy-in. I mean, the ownership right now is just kind of not like they don't. It's not like they don't care. But in my opinion, look, they're giving really good support. What it feels like from the outside. Again, this is from the outside. Whatever the Dragons ask for, resources that they ask for, they're getting it from their mother company, which is very good. Um, and it doesn't look like the ownership is meddling over every decision possible. They have the best facility, best training facility in Tokyo. Their home field is in Taipei. They have a well established identity, like as a marketing identity. They have stars, Guo Tianxin, for example. They have talent. They won a championship 2 years ago with this core. They added two marquee free agents. What is going on? But the math doesn't math. And normally when you say math doesn't math, you can go, oh, this is probably just an outlier. But 2024, 2025 feels like the same story. It's been 220 games, regular season games. And it feels the same. The disappointment is, it can't, if it's almost 2 seasons of below expectations, then first of all, you look at the expectations and you look at whether that's good. On paper, in my opinion, the expectations are reasonable with all the good stuff that I just talked about. So what's going on? The math is mathing right. And so now I'm honestly starting to question how good it's being run. And I did just a few minutes ago talked about how Ye Junzhang is a very good head of baseball operations. But that is still built on the 2023 championship and things like that. As we go further away from that, and not only have you not make it to the Taiwan series, not win a Taiwan series, but you haven't even made the playoff in a league with the Fubon Guardians and another expansion team in the Hawks. You had a 3-year head start versus the Hawks, and you have the Guardians to get wins from. And you're 5th right now in a 6-team league. Something is not right. The real questions needs to be real doubts need are creeping in, and I don't know. Am I wrong? I'm probably wrong, but I also didn't think my expectations were unreasonable, and maybe I'm just all over it myself, but I don't know. Some real questions are being are popping up, and maybe 2025. 2020 at the end of 2025, the Dragons are gonna be okay. But if it happens next year, the top half of 2026 for this Dragons team, I hope there's real pressure being put on the players and real pressure being put on management, because if we're seeing the same thing for a fifth half season, after probably another, like this off season, again, two marquee free agents are back on the market, Ling Li and Huang Zipeng from the Monkeys. And with the way that the Dragons have invested in the last off season, they're probably going to go after them. And if they do go after them and they get those two players, maybe just one, let's just say they get one of them, you really, and then they still play like they have in the last two seasons, 2024, 2025, then I think a real evaluation on internally for their ways of doing things needs to be conducted. That being said, be careful about firing people too soon, because look at the Guardians, 33-63 in 2025. They've locked a below 500 season 25 games before the end of it. A 344 winning percentage. 24 games behind first place after just 96 games. They are they're about to get eliminated from 4-year championship. No surprise there. They don't have a winning record against any team in the CPBL, that is, again, including a second-year TSG Hawks and the Monkeys organization that doesn't give a crap. They won 5 games in August. 5-13 in August. Last August they were 4-13. I talked about them enough in the past. Again, they're not trying. Man, I feel like I don't know why other teams can do. I don't know. It's kind of, oh man, like the Guardians are just, the players are trying hard. The coaches are trying hard. Like none of them. I don't think anybody involved in the situation is just throwing games. But it's just, what are we doing? What's happening? Lin Wei is there now, head of development. He's probably going to take over the team in about 2 years. My hope is the Guardians don't rush Lin Wei into the first team manager role next year. I don't know if they're going to keep Chen Jingfeng there. I don't know if Chen Jingfeng wants to stay there, but Lin Wei needs a couple of more years, because right now their second army, their first army, the coaching staff and everything, the style of doing things from the outside looks very different. I think the Guardians right now are doing like a 4-year project or 3-year project where they let Lin Wei run all the things in the second army, but they still have the incumbent coaches right now in the first army running things their way. So right now they're in a transitional phase, I think, as a baseball operation, where One day they're gonna let Li Wenju run everything, which is not a bad call, in my opinion. I think it's definitely worth a try. I think it's definitely worth a try to have one person make all the calls. Um, One very smart, very respected baseball person to make all the calls. Um, but that doesn't take away. I you can't. I don't understand. It doesn't. I don't know how to say this in a nice way. Even before the season, we knew the Guardians are going to be bad. I mean, that's not true. Even if you're pessimistic about the Guardians preseason, you it can't be you would never expect them to be a 344 winning percentage team. You would never expect them to lose twice the amount of games that they have won. That no one in a 6-team league, when you have a draft to balance out the league, this is not like the European system, right? Like, you have all these mechanisms being put into this league to help balance stuff out. It is one of the most equally weighted team for the longest time, especially during the 4-team league and as well as the 5-team league as well. There should no. How are you, as a member of a 6-team league in a professional baseball, like a professional sports environment, be 33-63? That doesn't make any sense. That is my disappointment. Like, a 40% winning percentage would have been bad. But I thought 40% was like the floor of any 16 league. I mean, the Hawks won 41% of their games last year. That was their first year in the league. 34.4%. A 344 team. The Guardians in 2022 was a 397 team, but that's basically 400. The Dragons in their first year in the league was a 427 team. 2020, the Guardians full year standings 350. I mean, that was a terrific, very close season at the end of the day. I really thought 400 would be the floor, but no, we're right now 340, 350 is the floor. I don't think they're going to be 344. I think they're going to win more games. There has to be a correction coming in. No team is going to finish. No professional team is going to finish a season with a 333 in a 16 league. That's just not going to happen. I refuse to believe it until I see it. Right now they're 344. I think they might go up to. I hope they go up to like 370. But still, how, man, like, that's just sad. You're sitting here hoping they win 35% of their games, 37% of their games in a 6-team league. That is just ridiculous. That's it for today's Rants with Danny Shea. Today, September 1st. Texas football, Arch Manning. Gosh dang it. Rebuild season. It's a rebuild season. We're going to have Arch next year. If you think Arch's going to declare for the draft after this year, he's not. He's not. I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe it. Like, I refuse to believe there's a 300 team in a 6-team league. All right. Oh, by the way, the Yankees. Jesus, stop gaslighting us. Boone, Cashman. That's my thing. Like, I don't. And it's players are bad, whatever, right? But like, stop gaslighting us. Stop telling us. Stop trying to pretend that everything is fine when it's like you're a borderline playoff team. but stop gaslighting us as if they're a World Series team. They're not. They're not. They're not. Anyway, that is today's episode, September 1st, 2025, and we'll see you guys next time.